That
This
was
conference
one
will
of the
now be
challenges that I
recorded.
had. My Hebrew is decent.
Really deteriorated.
Uh-huh. Okay, come, let's get started. And good to be back in the saddle over here. Okay, so page 998, Parshat Re'eh. And we are the book of Devarim. And this is Moshe, who has transformed himself from Lo Ish Dvarim. I am not a man of words. When Hashem approached him by the burning bush to go to Egypt and to be the deliverer of Bnei Yisroel, the children of Israel, out of Egypt, his response is Lo Ish Dvarim. I'm not a man of words. And now we have an entire sefer of Devarim, of Moshe's words, and it's important to understand, right? So our belief, our understanding is that every word of the Torah was dictated by Hashem to Moshe and was written, according to some opinions in the Talmud and the Gemara, over the course of the 40 years, according to others, at the very end of the 40 years. And yet, in we see a marked difference between, whereas the first four books, it's Hashem spoke to Moshe. Well, not the first one, but when Moshe enters the scene, Hashem spoke to Moshe, saying. So Moshe is writing it in third person, right? Not God spoke to me. Here, right? This is Moshe speaking first person. Re'eh, see, Anochi, I am notein lefnechem hayom. I am giving before you today bracha uklala. So, in what way is Devarim different? Are these Moshe's words? Are these God's words? And the approach of most of the commentators is that the first four were all dictated, and really Bereshit could have began by Daber Hashem el Moshe Lemor. Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, Bereshit bara Elokim, in the beginning God created, right? But it was written in the way that it was dictated to Moshe, and Moshe only enters the scene, right, with his birth, right? Devarim is different. Devarim is comprised almost completely of Moshe's words to the children of Israel, but Moshe said a lot of things to the children of Israel. And that which God told him should be written down in the Torah as dictated to Moshe, that is what was written down in the book of Devarim. So Devarim are Moshe's words that Hashem said should be written down and become part of this eternal Torah of ours. The first four books is God speaking to Moshe, telling Moshe what to write. And here too, it's God telling Moshe what to write, but it's his words. It is his, those words of his which were incorporated into Torah. So let us begin. Re'eh, see. Anochi notein lefnechem hayom. I'm placing before you today bracha uklala, blessing and curse. Et habracha, the blessing, if you will follow the mitzvah that I'm commanding you today, and the klala, right? If you will not follow the mitzvah of Hashem, and you'll deviate from the path, right, to follow other gods, right, etc. So, what is the re'eh? What are they seeing? What are they looking at? Right? This is more like Shema, listen up. Or Shema can mean to hear or to listen or to accept. But what is the Re'eh over here? What is the Re'eh? What are they looking at? So some
Rabbi,
explain. Yes, Janet.
maybe it's
seeing or getting a perspective of clarity of exactly what the blessing is and what the curse is, and to choose blessing. So maybe there's a internal perception seeing.
Okay, that's a nice thought, Janet. We say by the Ten Commandments that we saw the words, right? Right. We heard the words. What does it mean that we saw the words? Well, it was so clear to us that it was as if, right, seeing something. Well, that was before we have all of this AI and all of this fake things that can be produced and make it look like it actually happened. But it used to be, we used to say seeing is believing, right? Now we've moved very far from that, but seeing is a lot greater clarity than hearing. I always like to give the example: if I hear someone outside, right, and it sounds like Basil, and then it walks in, and actually it's Alan, right? I say, Alan, you sounded like Basil. I don't say Basil, you look like Alan, right? In other words, when you see the person, that clarifies, right, who the person is. The re'iyah, that which we see, always overrides the shmiya, that which we hear. So Janet is proposing, Re'eh, I want you to, like, in a very visceral, tangible manner, to see this, to understand this. And it's interesting, right? We use that term, right? Like we could say, do you hear what I'm saying, or do you see what I'm saying, right? And that means, do you, right? Is it Colette? Is it being processed, right? Yeah, accepted, understood, right?
And also in Amidah, one of our first prayers is for da'at, for clarity and
Right.
I guess wisdom.
Yes.
I mean, so
Yes.
that must be kind of a high priority to be
A hundred
clear on all
percent.
the rest of the prayers of Amidah.
100%. If we don't have wisdom and knowledge, then
And
everything else,
clarity.
yeah, is a blessing in vain. Correct. The Or HaChaim HaKadosh says, Re'ei Anochi, look at me. Moshe is saying, look at me. Meaning what? If someone comes to try to tell you to to advance spiritually, if that person is not advanced spiritually themselves, right? So then what they're saying to you is not going to be all that convincing, all that impactful, right? That's on one hand. And if the person is saying, money, all that stuff, that's nothing. This is what's important. So if that person is impoverished, right, it's not going to be all that convincing, right? Well, you don't know. Yeah, you don't know. But let me tell you something. You get onto a plane, you sit on a lie flat, seat, first class, right? Lie flat, right? It's very different. One time I did fly, I did fly to Israel on in business, but it was lie flat, and it's a game changer. Mm-hmm. It's a game changer. On this last flight, which was about, I don't know, I think it was 10 hours from London to LAX. And Natalie had the window, and I had the middle, and then someone else had the aisle. And I said to Natalie afterwards, I said, business we're not able to do. I said, but I think we've reached the point that for these long flights, we don't want to have to climb out over someone else and climb back in, especially when the person in front of you has their seat back. And I think we've reached the point in our life where either we'll take one, we like to sit next to each other, so not take the two aisle seats, but maybe take the middle section, which has 3 or 4 seats. We take two over there, and that way it's just the two of us getting in and out, and not have to climb over anyone else. So if Moshe is always flying coach, right, in the middle seat, and he's telling them, Olam hazeh, this world, what does it have to offer? Once again, it's not all that convincing because you don't know. You don't know what it has to offer. But Moshe says, Re'ei Anochi. Look at me.
The good kosher food probably in first class. Because the regular kosher,
Yeah, it's a little bit better. It's it's a little bit better.
It's horrible.
So Moshe is saying to them, Re'ei Anochi, look at me. I fly first class. I've got all the wealth. I've got all of the material wealth. Good morning, Esther. I've got all of the material wealth. I've got all of the spiritual wealth. Look at me. And when I'm telling you that this is bracha, this is blessing, and this is klala, and this is curse, you can bank on it. You can rely on that. Re'ei Anochi. Now, the word Anochi is a very, very powerful word. Anochi is the first of the 10 commandments. First word, of the 10 commandments. Anochi Hashem Elokecha. I am Hashem your God who took you out from the land of Egypt. Anochi. The Gemara tells us that the word Anochi could be broken down into what's called notrikun. Notrikun means we take each letter of a word and stack it up, and each letter starts a different word. So Anochi, Aleph, Nun, Chaf, Yud becomes a 4-word sentence. First word beginning with Aleph, second one Nun, third Chaf, next one Yud. What is Anochi? So the Gemara says Hashem is saying, Ana, I, Nun, Nafshai, my soul, my essence, Katavit, I've written it down, Yahavit, and I'm giving it to you. That's what Anochi is. Hashem is saying, I'm giving myself to you, meaning I'm giving you the ability to connect to me. I'm giving over. Ana, Nafshai, Chatavit, Kotev, Yahavit. Yahav is to give. Ana, Nafshai, Katavit, Yahavit. Myself, my soul, I've written it down, I'm giving it to you. And that's what that Aseret Dibrit is. That was that interaction where God came down, so to speak, into this world and said, allow me to introduce myself. Here I am, right? And the Torah, every mitzvah is an opportunity, right? A mitzvah means a commandment, but we're commanded to take advantage of the opportunities. What does a good parent command our children to do? Make the most of yourself. Make the most of your opportunities, of what you are, of what you can be. So a mitzvah, every mitzvah is this opportunity to connect to God. And therefore, Re'ei, see Anochi, understand all of these mitzvot. What are they? They are all these opportunities that we have to connect and to touch Hashem. Now, Aaron stepped out for a moment, but the Hebrew nuance over here, Re'ei is in the singular. Anochi noten lifnechem hayom is in the lifnechem is in the plural, right? The plural would have been Ru'u, right? Leah? Ru'u. Anochi noten lifnechem. I'm sorry. Or Re'ei lefanecha. Re'ei singular, I'm placing lefanecha before you. Or Ru'u, you all should see, I'm placing lifnechem before you all. But here it's Re'ei in the singular, I'm placing before you all bracha and klala. So why might it be that we're switching here from the singular to the plural? Leah?
And Bifnechem is for every single person. is going to be responsible for that, for having the klala or bracha in his own life, and then the klal Yisrael is a entity.
Okay, so you want to say he's presenting it to the individuals and to the entity. Nice, nice. What I thought you were going to say, which I thought of just now, is an interesting. Right, this is not what I was planning on saying, but what maybe there is bracha, potential of bracha for the group when we are re'eh, when we are united, when we are as one, right? Re'eh, right? So see, right? If you will be as one, unified, so then you will have this bracha and klala. That could be a nice idea. The other idea that is a common theme that we have. Rambam Maimonides writes that a person is supposed to, based on the Gemara in Kedushin says, a person is supposed to view themselves as being perfectly in balance between my good and my not so good, not as good, right? And therefore, what I do this moment is going to tilt the scale either to merit or either for me or against me. And therefore, I feel the importance of everything you do. But then he goes further and says, don't just view yourself as being in perfect balance, view yourself and the entire world as being in perfect balance. And therefore, your next action will either tilt the entire world l'zechut, towards merit, or l'chovah, or the other direction. So re'eh, every individual, you have to see anochi notein lifnechem. I'm placing before all of you, meaning you, the individual, your decisions, what you do, don't just affect you, they could affect lifnechem, the entire world, right? And certainly even on a lesser scale, right? We know that things that we do affect those around us, right? When we're energized, other people get energized. If we are lethargic, then other people will also start to lose their energy, right? The Bali Musar say that a person needs to know their face has the din of a reshut harabim, of public property, right? And we're commanded, you can't make what's called a bor b'reshut harabim. You can't dig a pit. You can't do things in the public domain that will cause damage. Literally, you can't dig a pit in public domain because you're going to be damaging other people. So your face is to a certain degree reshut harabim. And if you've got, right, if people see you and they smile because you are exuding positivity, so then that's what we're supposed to be doing. And if we are, I was talking about Saturday Night Live had Debbie Downer as one of their skits they would do. You know, if everything is, was it the Grinch, right? You know, if everything is right, so then that affects others. So re'eh anochi notein lifnechem. We pointed out re'eh is lashon yachid, lifnechem is lashon rabin. Right? You hear that? Re'eh lashon yachid, lifnechem lashon rabin. Right? So why are we switching from the singular to the plural? Because we have an impact on others, and we have to recognize that and assume that responsibility, right? Take that on as something, and this.
You walk in the street and you smile randomly at somebody smiles right back at you.
Yeah.
It's like it's just happening.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
Even if they don't know you.
Yeah. Kamayim panim el panim.
that's it.
Yeah.
Something that I was telling people that I've noticed now that I went to Israel for the whole month. And where I grew up, it's on the beach. And there's a huge boardwalk, miles. And used to walk around and everybody used to say hello to everybody. Now that I went there, I'm saying hello to people and they look away like Americans. And I came out and said, wow, my country is changing. Like nobody says hello to you. They're like looking like, are you saying hello to me? I
Yeah.
didn't like it.
So I made a point when I was in Israel of nodding, and when I passed, yeah,
Almost hardly anyone
Yeah.
like her.
Just keep saying it.
Pardon?
Just keep
I
smiling.
did.
Keep saying it.
yeah, yeah. I like to do what you were saying, Leah, at the grocery store, right? Right? You nod, you smile, at the checkout line, you just like, give a nod and a smile to the person checking you out, and it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So Re'eh lifnechem, I'm placing before you. Okay, let's go to right, and then we speak. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot in these parashot. But let's jump up to Perek Yud Dalid, page 1010, and this is hello Julie, nice to see you. This is one pasuk where the Torah really gives us a very, very piercing perspective on life and on death. Perek Yudalit Pasuk Aleph, chapter 14, verse 1 on page 1010. The pasuk says, Banim atem la Hashem Elokechem. You are the children of Hashem, your God. Lo titgodedu. Do not cut or gouge yourselves. V'lo tasimu korcha beineinechem. Do not pull out the hair. Do not make yourself bald. Lamet. Over a death. Meaning, the way of the nations, their reaction to death, to the death of a loved one, was gouging themselves, cutting themselves with their nails, or with some sort of a file, whatever it was, literally gouging themselves, pulling out their hair.
There were professional mourners. They did that. Women that did it professionally. They would be invited to funeral and they would
Jewish or non-Jewish?
No.
Non-Jewish. Yeah. Yeah. That's how the Arab. That is how the Arabs do it, Aaron, today. That's how some Arabs do it today.
Well, only in our parts usually.
Yeah.
It's a spectacle for the cameras.
Yeah.
That's make it look bad.
Make it look bad.
Yeah.
So we are prohibited from doing that. Why? Because banim atem lashem Elokechem. Because you are the children of God. So all of the commentators, and each one gives us another glimpse, but all the commentators jump in. What is the connection between you are the children of God and therefore don't cut yourselves? Rashi says, you're the children of God, Vatem ru'uyin liot na'im, and therefore you need to be naive, presentable. You need to be proper and not gedudim, not all gouged up, not makurachim, not bald. What can I do? But not having pulled out your hair. That ship has sailed, right? But not self-inflicted, not self-inflicted. So Rashi understands you are the children of God. You represent Hashem in this world, and therefore you have to make sure that you are looking presentable, respectable, and not and not all gouged and with your hair blotched and torn out. That's how Rashi explains. Any other ideas out here? Cheryl.
I'm thinking of people who take on whatever it is, not drinking wine and
Nazir?
not cutting hair and stuff like that.
So why is that okay?
That's what I'm wondering.
Right. According to Rashi, right? So why is that okay? Okay. Yeah. A Nazir is doing that in order to remove themselves from the temptations of this world, right? So yeah. So the long hair, yeah, I hear that. That might be the price one needs to pay over there. Leah?
I think maybe Adam is not excelling Elohim. It's not to us to change it
Okay.
because we're in the image of God.
Okay, we're in the image of God. Good. Right. Good. So we need, right. That's part of the idea of Jews not tattooing ourselves. Like it's become so prevalent in the world today.
Oh, in Israel too. We want to live it. So overall, but see.
Yeah. Yeah.
How come it's just one generation from the Shoah?
Yeah.
On the arms.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a little
Sign of the
saddening. Yeah. Yeah.
On Sunday, my children and I met a girl, and she's a nurse. And her hair was pink. It was actually quite beautiful. But she had a nose ring and here and there. And when we left, I said, I'm sorry, but all this, didn't use a nice word, on her face. And she's a nurse. I see if one wasn't in the brilliant, but there should be some standards. You work in a hospital, I'm sorry, I didn't want to go.
Professionalism.
You're old-fashioned.
It did not resonate with my children. They really pushed back and like, you don't understand. They said, we don't care, we don't see it. Is she good at her job? And I said,
Right.
I'm sure she's good at her job, but
Right.
there's a little more to it. And I just could not get through. I did not win the argument.
Yeah, but I hear, tell me, why is it that rings in the ear are fine, but not in the nose and not in the eyebrows? Like, why? Really, there is no real difference.
I would say that yes, there is. Yeah, I can win that with you.
You're like a pig. You know what I mean? Or like an animal that
I
you
don't
lead
find
around.
I don't find it attractive, but yeah, that's the
Nose rings and like all these other stuff like back then. Even
yeah. In the Torah we have in the Zamim
Yeah.
that nose rings. Yeah, yeah.
Who did?
Eliezer gave Rivka, right?
And nose rings?
Maybe
look
a
over
little,
here.
a little stud diamond.
I don't know if it was a stud. I don't know how they did it in those days.
Huh?
Well, and what about like when men capture not Jewish women in war?
I remember this. I was like,
And they make them stay in a room by themselves and their nails have to
Oh, I thought you said I
hair
won.
grows and then they look
Right.
horrible.
Yeah, and that way hopefully they won't bring them home because Alice won't be too happy when Ralph brings her home. Yeah, yeah.
He's never happy.
That's
what
true.
was the thought, though, from these people ripping their hair out and gouging themselves? What did they think they were going to accomplish for those that were
Okay.
dead?
Okay.
We're expressing your
Okay.
problem.
No,
Then I can
I mean,
understand.
just doing it for, somebody died, this is what I do. No, there had to be something that they thought they were causing,
Okay.
cause and effect.
Okay, good. So let's go a little further.
Yeah, like a
Right.
vacuum.
It's like this.
Like,
There's
you
been
know, the
so
people
much
used to
pain
pick
that
themselves.
when you release the pain that way.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Look,
wouldn't do it, but I can see the thought process.
Yeah.
I've
Why
felt
we're-
that before.
to be fair, we tear Korea at a funeral. We tear the garment, right? So now in the more reform world, they give a little black ribbon, right? And I tell them, I explain to, if I'm doing the funeral, I explain to them the reason for the kriya, right? If they want to do a black ribbon, I always say I'm not going to run after you with a blade. You don't have to worry, right? Right? But I'm not going to tear the ribbon. You know, I'm not going to, I'm not going to participate in this nonsense, right? Yeah. If you want to do that, you can do that, right? But oh well, I always tell people you don't need to bring your best shirt. You don't need to bring your best shirt. But the idea of the kriya, on one level, the kriya is very representative, meaning that the body is referred to as the garment of the soul. And therefore, at a funeral, we are mourning the loss of the body and of our interaction with that person, but the soul is untouched. The soul continues on. So to represent that, we tear the garment, our garment, showing that it's our belief that the garment, the body has been torn, but the person, the soul, is intact. That's one level of understanding. But on a more visceral level, there is a certain degree of anger, of frustration, of profound grief. And if you could tear that, it is a bit of a release.
It's like a self-soothing thing, and it's not an okay thing. I think that at some point your mind is just so out of it, and that's like the only way you find release, or like self-soothing in a very not good way.
Yeah.
But it happens.
Yeah.
Self-harm?
Self-harm. Yeah. Cutting, all that whole thing, which when I was a teenager, I never heard of it. Maybe it was happening, but I never even heard of it. It was only once yeah. But when I was teaching high school, is going back to the 1990s and the 2000s, then it was a prevalent issue of this, and it was a matter of feeling pain and being able. I think one girl explained to me that when you're feeling so much pain, if you could cause yourself pain, then you understand where the pain is coming from, as opposed to the things, and it takes your mind off of those things that are actually whatever it is. Yeah. Yeah. So over here, what's happening is, so the way other commentators explain it is to address your point, Kathy, and that is, you should not be feeling this overwhelming sense of grief and loss. Why? Because banim atem laHashem Elokecha, because you're the children of Hashem. And three explanations that I'll share on that. One is, let's say, for example, you go to the funeral of your second cousin twice removed. Okay? And at the funeral, and you're there with your spouse, you're there with your children, and there at the funeral you say, oh, how can I go on? Life isn't worth living. Life isn't worth living anymore. Now that my second cousin twice removed is no longer with us, right? And your wife, your husband's saying, or your children are saying, how about us, right? So what the pasuk is saying is, temper your grief, because you still have that which is so much closer to you. What do you have? You have your Father. You have Hashem. Okay, that's one approach. Another approach that I think the Ibn Ezra says this is banim atem Hashem Elokeichem. Your children. You are children. And your understanding of the world, of life, is like a child's understanding compared to Hashem, like a child to an adult. That's your understanding compared to Hashem's understanding. And we know, right, as parents, right, that when the kids are younger and they might listen to us once in a while, so then you have to sometimes impose certain things, right? You have to impose certain things, right? And they don't understand why. Why do I have to go to bed? Why can't I have more and more of this? Why can't I do this? Why can't I do that? And because we love you, we care for you, we know what's best for you, and therefore we can't. And therefore the answer is no. My granddaughter, one time she saw her father eating ice cream late at night, and she had like this look on her face, like, you mean you could eat ice cream whenever you want? Like, wow, that's like, it was like this epiphany. Wow, whenever you want, you can just go eat ice cream. I can't do that. You don't let me this, that, right? So, banim atem laHashem Elokeichem, you are the children of Hashem. And therefore, as much pain as you are feeling, and we do feel pain, and we should feel pain, and we do feel grief, and we don't bottle up the grief. We don't keep a stiff upper lip. And Ramban says, we should be crying. Crying, yes. The Kriya we spoke about already. But it needs to be measured, right? Because we have to recognize we are children before Hashem. God is running this world, and we're not going. We can't understand. We're not going to understand. We're not going to understand. And I always tell over the story from Hasidic tales of the Holocaust. I told this over hundreds of times, of the rabbi. And someone came to me afterwards and said, Rabbi, with what you experienced, don't you have questions? Don't you have questions for God? Right? How can you be a rabbi after the Holocaust? Don't you lived through it? And he responded, I've got more questions than you could ever imagine. You cannot even imagine the questions I have. But I also believe that Hashem has the answers. But I'm concerned if I ask the questions too stridently, Hashem's going to say, come here. Come here and I'll explain it to you. Right? Come here. You want the answer? I'll explain it to you. So I'm willing to wait. I'm willing to wait. And that's how some explain, banim atem laHashem Elokeichem. You are the children of Hashem. You're children. Right? If we are believing in a God that created the universe, that created the galaxies, that created everything, the sun, the moon, all the constellations, and created the double helix DNA inside each and every one of our cells, which has all the information to create a full human body. Just have to activate the right sequences, and that way you'll have a liver or a heart or a kidney or skin or brain or tooth or eye, you name it. If we're believing in such a God, then we have to recognize that we are out of our league. And there's no way that we can understand everything. And therefore, you have your sadness, you have your grief, but it needs to be tempered, right? Banim atem, your children before God, don't go gouging yourselves. Don't go pulling out your hair.
See, I still think that there's something more with the whole shedding of the blood of this. You rip your hair out, you're going to bleed. You do that. Did they feel like they were appeasing their God in some way, and that it warded off more
idolatry? You're talking about?
Yes, in this, that when somebody died,
oh, for them to do it.
Yes.
Oh, for them it might have been. Oh, so for them it might have been a part of an idolatrous process.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. God is saying, don't do this, but why? yeah, I mean,
Okay, I hear what
Yeah.
you're saying. So you're taking a different approach,
I'm
Kathy.
just-
You're
yes.
you're saying for the goyim, for the nations, they would do this because this was in a way like this, almost
Appeasement
idolatrous,
of-
right? Let me appease the forces of death by giving some of my blood, and that should be right. And therefore,
Yes.
we're told, "Banim atemi," the children of
and he's saying,
Hashem,
no, you don't
right?
do this
Because you're my
this
children.
way.
I'm your father,
Yes.
right? Okay, that's
Because everybody
that's also
grieves,
possible.
no matter what group you belong to. But to actually sit there and rip your hair out and rip your skin apart, it's like it was expected from these people at this time.
Could be.
And it had
That's
to be
interesting.
towards their God, because God's saying, you and I don't relate this way. Because we
Right.
know
That's not how
many
you're not
times he
allowed.
says, when you go into these lands, and we don't inquire about how they serve their gods.
Right.
Don't learn their ways.
Good.
But
So
this
you-
is one they were obviously already aware
so that,
of.
that's a definite definite possibility. Nice. The last one I want to share, the Or HaChaim HaKadosh, gives a very, very powerful mashal, parable for this. And actually, which is also important, when I was sitting Shiva for my sister when she passed away, so I was 12, a rabbi came in and said this Orach Chaim HaKadosh, and I was either going to walk out of the room or punch him in the face, so I opted to walk out of the room. But I did not want to hear it. I was not ready to hear it. And that's why at a Beit Ha'avel, at a mourner's house, the mitzvah is go there and sit quietly. Sit there quietly. If the person initiates conversation, join in. Person wants to talk about the deceased, great. Person wants to talk about the Lakers or the Knicks, so be it. Right? But you just be quiet. Huh? In Chamed Alze. Yeah. Right? Whatever. Right?
English would be good.
Yeah. He said that would be hard for him because he doesn't know anything about sports. That's not his thing. Right? But the idea is that's not the time to pontificate.
Right.
That's not the time to speak. If they ask, if that's what they're looking to hear, so then you can. But it's got to be gentle. But years later, when I came across this Orach Chaim HaKadosh, it provided a lot of comfort to me. And he gives the following parable. There was a father who understood that in order for his son to fully develop into his own person, he needed to be away from the father. He needed to be on his own. So he sent him to a faraway land to fend for himself and build him and take care of himself and learn how to navigate in the world without daddy around. And he did. And he did nicely over there. And he built up many very, very, very close relationships, close friendships. And then years went by, and the message came from the father, son, now it's time for you to come home. So he goes to the port, and lots of his close friends escort him to the port. And they're very sad because they've grown to really love this person. They're really connected to this person. And they're crying. They're crying. Many of them are crying. But to start gouging themselves, pulling out their hair, that would be completely and absolutely inappropriate. Why? Because they understand the son is going back to the father. That's how we need to view death, Baruch Chaim HaKadosh says. As sad as we are, sad, yes. We love this person. We will no longer have this ability to connect to the person in the way that we have for as long as we had the person with us. At the same time, we recognize the child is going back home to the father. And therefore, it needs to be it needs to be tempered. Our reaction needs to be tempered. And Rav Nachman Bullman, who was a great Rebbe, teacher, he gave the parable that a child wakes up in the middle of the night and looks, right, this child shares a room with another sibling and sees that the bed is empty. And he goes into a panic. What happened? What happened? What happened? What happened? What happened? Oh my God. And the child is freaking out. And he goes running to the parents' room to tell them that little brother, little sister is gone. And then he sees that, oh, child is there, nestled in the arms of the father, nestled in the arms of the mother. So that's the parable that he gives, right? When we lose someone, and we're in a recognize that they are now nestled in the arms and the embrace of Banim Atem, children of Hashem. So
people don't be nestled in the arms of Hashem.
yeah, so who are Rishaim? Right? Who would we label as a Rasha? The Hamas terrorists, I would very easily label them as Rishaim. But yeah. So my view is that, you know, everyone does some good and does some bad. There's none of us who don't do some averot, right? There's no one that doesn't do some, right? So everyone has done some good. So everyone will have, right? Not to say that there won't be accountability for what they've done wrong, but they will have that embrace of Hashem for the good that they've done. You know, the Bedicheva Rebbe was known as an incredible Ohev Yisroel. He would always find the positive. Right? You know, people came running in during Minyan and said, Rebbe, it's terrible. The wagon drivers with their talis and their tefillin, they're under the wagons. They're greasing the axles of their wagons during davening, right? Because right after davening, they would do that, right? Right? It's disgusting. It's terrible. And he said, oh, such tzaddikim. Even when they grease their axles, they're davening, right? Or the Bedicheva that someone was smoking on Shabbos. So he said to him, excuse me, you know, it's Shabbos. And he says, I know it's Shabbos. Well, you know you're not supposed to smoke on Shabbos. Rabbi, I know we're not supposed to smoke on Shabbos. You know that that's a cigarette. Yes, Rabbi. I know that that's a cigarette. And he looked to the heavens and he said, Mi ka'amcha Yisrael. Who is like your nation, Israel? That they're so honest. They are so honest. But the story that I was thinking of before I get to address your point, Leah, about, you know, people who do Averis. So someone came to the Bedicheva and said, Rabbi, it says in the Shema, right, that, you know, if you won't do the commandments, I'll hold back the heavens, blah, 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 blah. I don't do any of these mitzvot. And and God has sent me such blessings. I'm very, very wealthy. I have all the blessings in the world. What are you going to do with that? So he said, you're quoting from the Shema? He said, yeah. I said, oh, so you said Shema at least one time in your life? And he said, yeah. I said, oh, if you said Shema one time in your life, all the riches of this world can't compensate you for that one-time Shema you said in your life, right? So you're asking, people who've done Averas, we all do Averas, right? Each one of us, wherever we're at, there are things that we should be doing and not doing, everyone, right? So I think everyone, again, not to say there will not be accountability for the things that we've done wrong, but everyone who's done any good in their life, and I don't know anyone who hasn't done any good in their life, there will be this embrace. That's how I see it. Let me share with you. This was written up a while ago, right, by a Rav Yom Tov Ehrlich. It's a story. It's a story that's based on the writings of Rav Chaim Vital, who was the Talmud of the Arizal, who was the disciple of the Arizal. The Arizal was of the greatest Kabbalists that we've had. And the story goes as follows. And this is, again, it's not a true story, but it's Yisodot. It's foundations that I would say Torah Judaism believes in. Yosef had recently married. We walked back from shul with his youngest brother to wish their mother a good Shabbos. In the house, all was ready for Shabbos. Tables set, candles glowed brightly. However, the empty seat at the head of the table upset the tranquility. Their father had died 2 years earlier, and their mother had not found peace since then. The smile she tried to force as she wished her sons a good Shabbos couldn't hide her tears. Mommy, it's Shabbos. We're not supposed to be sad, he said gently. But it was exactly 2 years ago today that your father died. How can't I cry? That explains this Shabbos, but not last week and 2 weeks ago. Father is now in Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden, and your tears must be upsetting him. They also show Hashem you're not willing to accept his judgment. Mommy, forgive me for speaking this way, he apologized. You're right. I know everyone wants me to be happy again. I will try my best, she promised. Yosef left to go to his house, and his younger brother David made Kiddush on the wine. A calm serenity seemed to envelop the Suda, the Shabbos meal, in the entire house. As she went to sleep, the mother felt an internal peacefulness she hadn't felt since her husband's death. She began to think that she's not alone. Others have gone through it and made it, and so could she. As she drifted off to sleep, she dreamt that people were running. She began to run with them. They ran through a dark forest until, with a burst of light, the forest ended. The bright sun glimmered off a sparkling blue stream running through a garden filled with beautiful flowers. Suddenly, a white-bearded Jew wearing a long white garment appeared and gently asked her if she'd like to see her husband. With her heart pounding, she followed him to a tree full of beautiful ripe fruit, overlooking a spacious clearing surrounded by a golden fence. There were colorfully dressed Jews sitting in rows, learning Torah from a young man. The class finished, and she saw the teacher approaching them. When she saw it was her husband, she nearly fainted and leaned against the tree. When she regained her composure, she cried out, "Why did you leave me at such a young age?" Please understand that the world in which you live is a world of exile, he explained serenely. People are sent there to complete specific tasks or to rectify earlier transgressions. This is the true world. Before you ever knew me, I was a Torah scholar and was very righteous. My only fault was I was unwilling to marry and bring children to the world because it would have disturbed my studies. When I left the world, I began to ascend to ever higher levels, but at a certain point, I couldn't ascend any higher because I had never married and never had children. I was sent back to the lower world to marry and have children. I married you, and when our seventh child was born, I was called to return to Gan Eden. Great is your merit that I was your husband. When the right time will come, we will again live together in this world in delight. Why doesn't our son Yosef, prosper in his business affairs? I'm sure you remember the litigation that Yosef had with another Jew, he responded. He was legally correct, was guilty of causing the other person great pain. He faced a harsh sentence, but I prayed on his behalf that he be given only 4 hard years. In just one more year, that period will end, and he will prosper. And what about our David? Not a single shidduch, prospective spouse, has been offered, and I have no money to make a wedding. He smiled and explained. David's wife was late in coming. She's now only 13 years old. In 5 years, they will move to your city. She will get engaged to David. They will finance the wedding. In a pained voice, she asked, and why was our 3-year-old son killed by a drunk? Follow me, he said. They began to walk to a light-filled garden. Brilliant beams of multicolored light shone from above, while beautiful songbirds flew from tree to tree, singing the praises of Hashem. Suddenly she saw leaping circles of fire positioning themselves near her in a column-like formation, followed by small angels who also settled near her. She felt her soul slipping away, and her husband quickly placed a flower near her nose to revive her. A canopy made of sparkling stones appeared before her, and under the canopy stood a small angelic form she recognized as her son. Why did you leave me when you were so young? She asked. Everything is done according to Hashem's plan, he answered. I have been in the world once before, and during one of the wild attacks against my town, Gentiles had murdered my entire family. I, at the age of 6 months, was the only survivor. A kindly Gentile woman took me into her home and raised me until I was redeemed by the Jews. They taught me Torah, and I became a great scholar. When I left that world, I was received with great joy. I reached a point where I couldn't rise higher because I was nursed by a non-Jewish woman. It was decreed that I be born again to a Jewish mother and live those early years in purity. After 3 years, there was no reason for me to remain in that lowly world, so I returned to here. You have a great merit. You helped me to reach this next level. Child laughed softly and disappeared from view. Husband continued, you now see there is an answer to all your questions. Hashem does no evil. He escorted her back to the tree where he had met her. It is very good here, but I can't bear to see your suffering. You will do me a great favor by living happily. A shidduch has been proposed for you. Please accept it. With that, he vanished, and the old man led her back through the forest. She awoke a different person, soon remarried, and lived a life of contentment. Banim atem, we're children, and we really don't know, don't understand. We go through our life with our olam hazeh, our this world blinders on, and yeah. All right. Banim atem. If anybody would like, but in a way it is.
Yeah.
In a way it is. Yeah. But to recognize that. Yeah. All right, my friends. We'll call it over here. I could email, if anybody would like, send me an email. I could email this to you if you'd like to have a copy.
It's amazing how such a boring project just. It's so wonderful to be here and, get so much out of it. If we just read it. Not bad again.
They're all action-packed. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Okay, Linda, good seeing you. Janet.